Hey, this is Ross from Appy Automations, your experts in AI and automation. Now, in today's video, I've got a great little bit of kit for you. It's an AI content generating system that's perfect for people without much time to post on social media. And it's going to do probably the most important thing that you need as a business. It's going to put you forwards as an authority to your industry. And the way it's going to do that is by getting an up-to-date selection of curated news stories from across the internet and rewriting them using your voice. Now, if that sounds good to you, then stick around because that's what it's all about. So let's give you a quick overview as to how this content system actually works. So step one, what we need to do is to grab some news stories that we've curated from across the internet and put them into a Google Sheet. In step two, what we're going to do is create a clever little multi-dimensional sentiment scoring system so that we only pass through the highest quality content to our audience that gets rid of the rubbish. Then we're going to pass that to Slack for our approval. Then what we're going to do is grab the original text and categorize that information for future use to make the model better. Then in step six, what we're going to do is to rewrite those articles in our own voice, personalize it, which is again really important. Then we're going to create an AI generated image to go along with the article. Then we're going to post it to social media. And then finally, what we're going to do is to archive the material and then delete the stuff which we don't want in order to start all over again. So the top three things you're going to get out from today is an understanding about how to do a sophisticated sentiment scoring system. You're going to understand how to do web search, and you're going to understand about how to do personalization. Now, all of those things are really important skills to know if you're interested in AI and automation. Okay, the personalization part is really important because it stops your articles from sounding like they've been written by AI and actually makes them sound like you, which is really important for communicating to people. Okay, so now you've got a bit of a flavor about how this works. Let's get into it and I'll show you how to do it. So if we want a content generation system that uses news as an input, then we need a nice way of being able to simplify all of that information in one place. And that's where rss.app steps in. So what you can do here is you can enter a topic or keyword that you're interested in. It could be whatever to do with your niche. So mine's obviously AI, but yours could be like mechanical engineering or whatever. And then it would produce a whole range of articles that you could use as a feed. And you can control the number of articles. You can have 5, 25, whatever you like. So what I've done is actually to hand pick the websites that I'm interested in. And so for each URL, you can also control the number of posts that this site will harvest for you. So what I've done is I've cherry picked the best news websites out there for my particular niche, and I put them into tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 categories. So in the basic package, you get 15. The next one up, you get up to 100. Okay, so what I've done is I've categorized all of these things and I've added some additional filters. So why are filters useful? Because it means you can actually whitelist and blacklist certain words. So this means you can kind of pre-screen the stuff which is relevant to your audience and get rid of the stuff which is not so good. So that's fantastic. And then we can actually bundle everything together. And the benefit of bundling things is we get one URL which we can actually use in our feed in the next step. So that's what I'm going to show you. Okay, so here we are in step 1. So this is where we want to grab our news articles. And we're going to do this using the RSS app, retrieve RSS feed items. And then we're going to bung everything into a Google Sheet. So in terms of scheduling, you can set this up to run as frequently as you like. I've got this set up every workday at 8:45, and then the subsequent steps happen a bit later on and slightly less frequently. But it's entirely up to you what you choose. Okay, so to help you set up your Google Sheet, you can see the column headers we've got here. Date, title, URL, primary categories, sentiment analysis, the final score, and we've got various other items here, which I'll just show you very quickly so you know what you need to put in. Okay, so this is what the rss.app module looks like. So you're retrieving RSS feed items, and you're going to enter your URL that you've got from your app there, and you're going to put your username and password in here, and then you're going to enter a date from. So that's the number of hours in this instance that it's going to be looking for articles from. And the date to, which obviously you're looking up to today's date. Here you can control the maximum number of return items. If you're just testing, just put a couple in, because otherwise you might be losing a bit of information you don't need. Okay, so that's what it looks like there. Okay, so in here you're going to add a few basic variables that you've got from the previous step here, so you can see the various different variables that you can access there. You're putting in the date, title, URL, so basics, and here we've got has the sentiment analysis been done yet, and we're saying no, it hasn't. And we want to pass all of that information, so however many articles that you choose, we're going to bundle that all together, and we're going to send that as a request as a webhook in the next step. So we're going to post the information, and then we are sending the date, title, and URL as fields. And then we move on to step 2, where it does the sentiment analysis. Okay, so let's quickly run through the sentiment scoring system. Now, what is sentiment analysis? Well, it's been around for a long time, and it's just a way of analysing text to understand the tone of voice as to whether it's positive, neutral, or negative. However, we need something a little bit more useful than that to make it relevant for our audience, so we can create a few more dimensions. So what we've done here is to create additional dimensions around creating an SME relevance score. Obviously, if you're dealing with large companies, you would tailor it to that, but for many people, SMEs are the target audience. AI specificity. Now again, in your niche, you might not have AI, it could be fashion or whatever it is that your industry is. Timeliness, how fresh the article is. Actionability, that means how easy the information is to take action upon. And novelty, how new the information, has it been said before? Now what we're going to do is to create a weighted score of those. So we're doing this in order to create a benchmark, so we only pass through the highest quality content to our audience, okay? So that's what's going on in this step. Now we're using a webhook because we want this workflow to be done automatically as soon as the information from the previous step arrives, just to make it easy, okay? So what's happening is, as soon as those articles get dropped into the Google Sheet, then the sentiment process is going to begin. So we're using Perplexity AI here to do the web search. So it's going to take the original URL, and then it's going to score them according to the dimensions which we've just discussed, and it's going to put them into a format that can be broken up into chunks a bit later on. So that's the format it's looking for, okay, with brackets around it, and we need those brackets so we can actually match that in the text parser in the next step. Okay, so the Perplexity AI module has now produced its scoring output. So we need to break it down into individual variables. So let's take this as an example. It's going to be looking for the SME relevance score between these tags and a number value, and this regex pattern will look for that. And it's going to be doing that by looking across the output of the Perplexity AI module. Okay, so we're going to be doing the same kind of thing for each of the modules with its own label, replacing the relevant variable in here. So now we need to create a weighted score of each of those variables and then finally to sum it up. So that's what's going on this step here. We're creating the weighted score and then we're summing it up here. And once we've got that, we want to update our spreadsheet with that new piece of information. So there we go, final score, and putting each of those variables in there, and we're saying, yep, that's passed for approval. Now, if we're getting a low score that's beneath 7.5, then we want to pass that low quality content for deletion, and we're not passing it on to the next step, Slack. Okay, so let's see what this looks like in action now. Okay, so now you can see the results of step 2. You can see how the model has scored everything, and we've got final scores for all of the stories which have been dropped in. So as we'd expect, we've got some scores which are lower and some which are higher, and it's only those which are above 7.5 which are going to go to Slack. So we'll see that in step 3, which is the next scenario. Okay, so let's run that. Okay, so there they all are, dropping into Slack, and we can see them popping up here. Fantastic. Right, let's have a look at today's. Let's look for something which is interesting. Okay. Google finally taking action to curb non-consensual deepfakes. Pretty timely, pretty important story, so let's approve that one. This one's pretty high, but I'm not sure I want to be talking about tools today, so let's not approve that one. Okay, so what's happening now is that's going to get automatically approved or rejected in the next step. Okay, so now you can see the fruits of step 4. It's automatically approved the story which we wanted, and it has not approved the one which we didn't want. It's also grabbed the original URL for the image in case we want to use that for our article. Okay, so what you are watching as that spreadsheet updated was step 4 in action. So the reason why it was updating in real time is because we had a webhook. So that was how the scenario starts here. So it passes on the data to a JSON module here, which allows us to break it down into individual variables. So as we're iterating through lots of different articles potentially, then that's the reason why we put that there. So we're basically saying, is it getting an action which says approve or don't approve, and it's passing it on. And we want to update our spreadsheet depending on whether it's been approved or not approved. So that's what's happening here. Okay, so here we are in step 5. So now we want to grab the original text of the article and to categorize it for future use. Okay, so what we're doing is we're looking for stories that we've approved. So there we go, that's what's happening there. And then we're passing them on and getting Perplexity AI, which has got web search capability, to take the original URL and just to get rid of all the HTML and just return the text that we want. So that's what's happening there. We're also making an excerpt just so it makes it easier for us to read. And then we're doing a final quality check, just making sure it's not an advert, and we want to get rid of that. So that's what's happening here. So if the story is approved and it's not an advert, then we're going to categorize that. So we're categorizing it basically to make sure that we're producing varied content that our audience wants to read. So we are creating primary and secondary categories. So the primary categories are around key developments that are really important for your audience to notice, trends which are a bit more minor, competitor analysis, the industry applications of what you're talking about, and any regulatory updates. Now, the secondary categories can be variable depending on what you want to pay attention to, but I've got technology advancements, business strategy, ethics and governance, workforce impact, and investment and funding. Now, the reason we're creating these categories is also so in the future we can see what content has actually worked, and then we know what types of content that our audience is interested in, and we can do more of that, which is basically what we want to do. So that's the reason why we're doing it in that step. We're not doing it before because otherwise it would be wasteful to have performed that particular action. So we're updating our Google Sheet, and that's what's going on. So here we go. So there we go. You can see it's run there successfully. So we've got the article body should have in here. There we go. So that's what it's lifted, which is correct. We've got the excerpt. We've checked if it's news. So it said, yeah, approved. So it is news. It's gone through. We've created the categories. So that's fantastic. So we've got regulatory updates and ethics and governance. Brilliant. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to rewrite that article in our own voice and personalize it. Okay, marvelous. So you can see that step 5 has worked successfully. It's grabbed the original text and the excerpt, and we've got everything we need now in order to rewrite everything and drop it into these columns over here. So that's what's going to happen next. Okay, so here we are in step 6. So let's just explain what's happening. So this is the most important step overall. So we're rewriting the article in our own voice and personalizing it. Now, of course, you could just use OpenAI here if you really wanted to. It's not a problem. It's just that Claude, I think, does a slightly better job with the writing. So what we've got going on here is we're passing on the stories that we've previously agreed, and then we've got the summaries that we've got in the original text. So that's what's gone in here, approved. Stuff doesn't exist. We've got everything that we want up to this moment in time. So that's what we want. We're using an iterator just to cater to multiple stories. In the top stream, what we're doing is creating a longer form article for LinkedIn. And in the bottom stream, we're creating some shorter form material. So this is the step where you could potentially add additional forms of content if you wanted to. So if you wanted to produce a newsletter or a blog, for example, then you would just add some branches in here and you would add the relevant prompts and so forth and broadly replicate what we've done here. So the purpose of this is to provide you with some choice, to put you in the driver's seat. So you can decide whether you want to post something manually or to auto post it. It's up to you. So let's take a look at what's going on underneath the bonnet here. So with Claude, this is the prompt that we're going to be giving it. So it's taking the original text and then we're using this to produce a nice LinkedIn article, basically telling it to prioritize important information up front, giving it formatting guidelines, style guidelines, and things like that. Now, in this step, this is where we're doing some personalization. So this is an OpenAI agent that's been trained on previous material that I've put out. So this means it's going to personalize things in my voice, which is what you want to get rid of some of the AI tone. So this is the prompt we're going to be giving it. And the basic premise is that we don't want it to change too much because Claude is going to do a pretty good job, but we probably want to change some of the language around the beginning and end of the article in particular. So it's going to save that in the Google Doc, and then it's also going to save a copy of that to the spreadsheet, and you're going to be able to make edits to that in Google if you'd like. Underneath here, what we're doing is creating the shorter form text. So here we're wrapping tags around stuff to put it through the text parser in the next step, or the text parser, as they say around Bristol. So we're going to be putting the tweet in here. So that's the tweet tags, and it's grabbing the text between that. It's doing the same thing for LinkedIn. Lovely. And then we are saving those as variables, and then that gets bunged into Google Sheets. The ignore bits here are just error catchers, just in case we have not agreed any articles. We don't want everything to fail. So that's how this works. Okay, so let's just give it a quick run. Boom, there we go. Awesome, so now you can see that this has worked successfully. So let's take a quick look. And here we go. You can see everything has been dropped in here. So we've got the title, we've got the tweet text, we've got the short form LinkedIn, we've got the long form LinkedIn, and we've got an image prompt that we can use to generate an AI image in the next step. And there we go. We've got everything that we want. Fantastic. Even got a Google Doc link. There we go. Okay, so this is what the longer form LinkedIn article looks like. I think it's done a good job. You've got a decent title at the top there. The introduction sounds a bit like I would write, which is good. It's well laid out, not too long, not too short. It's got a solid call to action at the bottom and a few hashtags. Obviously, if you want to lay it out slightly different, you just amend the prompt, but you get an idea of what it can do. Okay, so this is step 7 where we want to generate an AI image. So we're going to be looking for those rows where we have an image prompt and we've already got the LinkedIn and tweet text. And then it's going to be passing it to an iterator and then to DALL-E 3 where we're putting in the image prompt text, and then we're doing a get file with the URL in there, and then we want to upload that to Google Drive and then get a share link in order to put that into our spreadsheet here. So there we go, that's the image link we want, and we're saying yep, that's being now created. So let's fire away. Okay, so you can see it working. Fantastic. Right, so let's go and take a look at where the link is for that, and there it is. There's the link. So let's take a quick peek. Okay, so this is the image that it's produced. It's not bad, but obviously it's got some slightly unwanted text artifacts in there, such as some weird non-consonantal consonant. No one wants to see inconsonant deepfakes, that's for sure. Anyway, listen, the point is that you can potentially pass this through an image editor like Canva if you wanted to trim it up, or not use it at all. Or alternatively, just create a prompt template in order to give it a greater stylistic consistency. Anyway, the choice is yours. You can use it or not use it, or use the original image. Okay, so now for the easy bit. We want to post our articles to social media. So you can do this with a social media manager, or you can actually go straight through using one of the other APIs. So for example, this LinkedIn one here or Twitter one here. So we're going to take the article data that we've got up to this point, which are the short LinkedIn text and the tweet text, and then we're going to put that through an iterator in case we've got multiple articles, and then put that into our social media manager here. So LinkedIn text and the original URL. We're saying we want to post that 6 hours ahead of where we are now. You can obviously control that depending on what you'd like. And the same thing here. And then we're going to change this status to published. So now we've got everything published. We want to mark it for deletion so we can start again in the future. Okay, so now for the final few steps. We want to archive the material that we've just published and then get rid of the stuff that we don't want in order to start the process again. So we're just going to look for the sheets where we've got the status being changed to published and it's been turned to deletion, passing it through an iterator, and then we're going to save it to the published archive, so a different sheet. And then we're going to put all of the available information that we want in here. So in particular, we want the categories and all of the sentiment scores because we want to know what's worked in order that we can actually do a better job in the future. So that's what's happening here. Okay, so finally, we want to delete the articles and start all over again. So that's what's going to be happening here. We're looking for articles which have been marked for deletion or those that have been published already, so that we can update our sheet, clear it, and start again. So that concludes our overview of this AI news content system. Now listen, I know it's not the be-all and end-all of content systems, but that's because it focuses on singly the most important thing that you need as a business, which is to establish your credibility, to put you out there as an authority to your peers. Now, not only is this system going to save you a lot of time, it's going to make you look really good because it's got some very powerful features embedded into it. Firstly, we've got the equivalent of an AI researcher, which is going to draw together curated articles from across the internet into a single source. And you're only going to pass on the highest quality articles to your audience because you're deploying a sophisticated sentiment scoring system. The cherry on top is to actually rewrite those using your own voice because you're going to use some fancy personalization techniques. And you're going to have the ability to either manually post it or to auto post it using a social media manager.
The system I've just shown you relies more on scheduling in the later steps. I've done this to make it easier to explain for this video. However, you can also use webhooks instead. So once you approve a story, it will go straight through to posting on social media, and that might work better for other people. I have created another version of the system, which you can see on the screen, that does just that.
So if you found this video useful, just let me know in the comments. If you want to get hold of the blueprints, then just hit me up in LinkedIn. You can find me as Ross Pepperell. Now, I've got lots of different sorts of content systems that I can show you. So if you want to see something a little bit different, then just let me know and I'll do my best to produce it for you. Now, as a bit of breaking news, I'm going to be releasing lots of different systems and tips and tricks for people on a new platform coming soon, which is going to be supported by AI professionals. So if all of that sounds good to you, you want to keep on following, then just stay in touch. All right, cheers. Stay happy.